So, hi everybody. My name is David Liu. I was a candidate, Republican candidate for the 49th Assembly District in California today, and me and a very special guest of mine, Michael, and we'll be talking about the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. So the reason that I invited Michael to come on the show is very simple, because Michael is like another Charlie Kirk, a younger, probably better looking version of Charlie Kirk. So not only he's a young Republican, but he also has a great passion to talk to the youth, to talk to people in his generation about the truth, about freedom, about what the young generation should do in today's political climate. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me, David. And I appreciate being able to speak to the people today. I specifically today wanted to address, in the light of Charlie Kirk's assassination, a very concerning trend in modern politics, that being specifically political violence coming from the left. And we've seen this in extraordinary amounts in recent years. Of course, there are the two thankfully failed assassination attempts on Donald Trump. There is the very recent murder of Ukrainian immigrant Irina Zarutska, who was killed by an African American who was the result of failing democratic governance in major cities. He was released several times. He committed multiple felonies and was never imprisoned. He was led to walk out on the street. He clearly had mental problems, and this resulted in a killing. Among this, there was the very recent Minneapolis church shooting, in which a transgender individual went to a church with a gun and slaughtered children and maimed more families in the same church. There are the suspicious deaths of 7 AfD leaders in Germany, all who died in a very short period of time, just within about a few months. All of these deaths have been labeled as quote-unquote natural. However, for all 7 of these people to die under suspicious circumstances in such a short period of time is incredibly suspicious. Of course, there was the recent murder also of the Israeli embassy staff, just to add on to the list. There was the Cybertruck explosion at the Trump Hotel, which was also planted. It wasn't an accident, it was deliberately set up. There was also, of course, the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO by Luigi Mangione, a famed, at this point, far-left activist. And now, most recently, there was the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which just today we got news that the police found a gun with various Antifa and transgender symbols carved on the gun, with various memorabilia on the scene indicating Antifa membership. All of these recent events indicate a very worrying trend that the left is willing to walk all over the right, and my main concern, my main point, is that there isn't enough anger from the right in regard to all of these events. The most recent political violence that the right has committed against the left wing serves to be Paul Pelosi and Nancy Pelosi, in which a crazed individual broke into their home and assaulted Paul Pelosi. Thankfully, Nancy Pelosi was not hurt, and thankfully Paul Pelosi did not pass away. However, this being the largest, or I should say most recent, political violence coming from the right, obviously with January 6th, sets in perspective exactly the problems of the modern establishment.
So it seems like there is a pattern of political violence, not just the violence on conservatives, but also violence on Democrats. As you were saying, Paul Pelosi was assaulted as well. So this is not about being left or being right. It's about U.S. Constitution. It's about First Amendment. It's about freedom of speech. So anybody should say and need say whatever they want to say. Obviously, you may or may not like their speech, but if you don't like their speech, you can debate them. You can walk away, right? But it doesn't give you the right to kill that person. So we're talking about the cornerstone of U.S. democracy, which is freedom of speech. So anybody has their legal right, anybody has their constitutional right to express their opinions, to express their ideologies. Anybody also has their legal right to disagree with them. But what it comes down to, this is what democracy is about. So it's exchange of ideas, exchange of ideologies, exchange of different opinions. So what do we do is that at the end of the day, we agree to disagree, right? Obviously, we don't have to necessarily agree with another person. By the same token, nobody needs to be agreeing with you. But still, that's a very idea, that's a cornerstone, that's a foundation of democracy. By killing, as you were saying, we have evidence indicating the fact that the shooter was a member of Antifa, right? So at least it was very closely affiliated with Antifa. So it was very clear that that assassination was politically motivated, because the reason why Charlie Kirk got shot and killed because of his position, because of him being a conservative activist. Especially, I think Charlie Kirk's significance is very unique in a sense that within the Republican Party, me as a Republican, so we don't have that many young Republican activists, percentage-wise. A lot of times young people, I feel like, especially young people in this country, in America, they tend to agree with democratic ideology, right? So they feel that, anybody should be equal, everybody should be equal. Yes, as far as the law goes. So let me give you an example. So one time, Ronald Reagan, when he was the president of the United States, where there was this young girl, 5-year-old girl, was asking Ronald Reagan the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Instead of answering the question, Ronald Reagan goes, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" She goes, "Well, I want to be the president of the United States, like you." And Ronald Reagan continues, "Well, why would you want to be the president of the United States?" She goes, "Well, if I am the president, so I can give food and clothing and a shelter to that homeless person in the corner." And Ronald Reagan goes, "Well, so if that's the reason you want to be the president, so one thing I actually can do for you is that you can come to my house this weekend and mow the lawn. So I will pay you $50. With that $50, you can buy food, you can buy clothes, you can give them to the gentleman, to the homeless gentleman in the street corner. She was like, "Oh, great, thank you, Mr. President." Then somehow she doesn't feel right. Something is off. She paused for a minute. She goes, "Well, why can't he go to your house and mow the lawn, so he can make the $50, so he can buy food, he can buy clothes?" Ronald Reagan smiles. Welcome to the Republican Party. So the story actually is very simple, yet is very profound. That's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. You work for your money. You make contribution to the society. You being a productive member of the society. That's the right way of living your life. And say that in a lot of instances, say you're disabled or you're pregnant. I mean, obviously, you're entitled to whatever benefits government offers. I think it is government's job to take care of you to a certain extent. But that's when they actually genuinely have their need to be taken care of. Say they're not in a position to work certain jobs. Whereas right now, seems like young generation is being brainwashed into thinking, I don't need to make any money. I should be happy with less, because less means less responsibility.
I should be taken care of rather than take care of myself.
Yes. And basically, they make the society pay for themselves, meaning that they are taking advantage of all the productive members of the society, whereas they can easily do that for themselves, or maybe they can even take care of other people. So basically, the left-wing ideology is making the young generation a bunch of losers. In a way, they are being destroyed by that irrational idea, by that irrational ideology. Right, so that's why they always say, "Oh, you know what? As long as I'm happy, I don't need a house. I don't need to get married. I don't need to have children." Let me put it this way: if you never had children, you can really say, "I don't like children," because you never had them. You don't really say you never had a cell phone. You never had a cell phone. You never had a car. You can't really say, "I don't need a car, I need a cell phone." But right after you have had a possession of a cell phone, of an automobile, you use them, say, for a year, you will realize you cannot live without them. It's as simple as that. It's like once you have children, you cannot imagine your life without your children. As simple as that. So that's why I think Charlie Kirk was speaking the truth. He was brave, he was courageous, he was charismatic, he was humorous. Most importantly, he was speaking the truth. He had a passion for America. He had a passion for American people. He had especially a passion for people in his generation.
That's why, I would say that is exactly why the far left took such an approach with him. He was exercising the exact things that you were talking about. He was going to campus to talk with students, to debate, to exercise freedom of speech. And for that, some people can't handle it, and that's why he was killed.
Precisely. So, as the saying goes, only the truth will set you free. So let Charlie Kirk's death be a message, even a bigger and a grander message Charlie Kirk was sending before he died, which is to speak the truth, face the truth, live a productive, godly life. God bless you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.